Hi, I'm Bill Bradley. Join me for a recent excerpt of American Voices. But first, here on American Voices, we're curious about people's stories and the memories they hold close to their heart. And so we ask author Samuel Ashworth, is there a snack or meal that reminds you of your childhood? Here's what he told us.
Hello, my name is Sam Ashworth. There is one food above all that creates a very specific sense memory in my head and puts me back in a place. And it's this brief moment in time when I was 9, when my brother and my mother and I were living in France for a little while. And my dad couldn't come for the whole time because he couldn't get off work for that period. So he would pop in when he could. And we were living in a little village. And my mother does not enjoy cooking, to put it very mildly. But suddenly she's responsible for feeding two pretty picky eaters. And the one thing she found that I would eat was rigatoni noodles, peas, and turkey breast, all mixed together in butter. And to this day, every couple of months, if I see turkey breast for sale or something, I'll buy it and I'll make it for myself. And my wife thinks it is the blandest. She cannot understand why I like it, but whenever I eat that, it's this very intense memory of my mom doing her best with these two children who were not particularly cooperative. It has to be those three components, like rigatoni or penne. I guess penne, really. Peas, turkey breast, chopped up, and all mixed together with butter. That is the very specific dish. And a lot of salt and pepper on the turkey because you have to get the flavor from somewhere. And it makes me so happy to eat that. That's the closest thing I think I have to a Madeleine. Some of my happiest memories take place in that village. I really grew up there. And I also remember it with such precision. I remember almost every cobble and building of that village, even though I've barely ever been back as an adult. And when I eat that particular food, it delivers this incredibly intense and really wonderful memory. And we had moved there for 6 months in 1992 because my parents had always wanted to live abroad for a little while. And it turned out that we could afford to live there and rent out our apartment in New York. And I got dropped into a tiny little village school in a really rural area. There were 3 grades in each class. And I don't think I spoke any French, maybe like a tiny amount. My parents are not French. They got by. And within a couple of months, I was and remained to this day bilingual. And I took to it like a duck to water. I loved it. And it became a huge part of our lives. And as we got older, it got a lot harder for us to go there. But I was living in a completely different place. I was born and raised on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And to suddenly find myself living in this little village of 900 people that had been there since maybe the 12th century, with these kids, most of whose parents were in agriculture or they were farmers, was a complete dislocation from everything I knew. But it never felt hostile or scary for me. And it's still a place that I consider home to this day. It really feels like a physical sensation. It's not just a memory that lives in your head. I remember what it was like to go running around that village. I remember the feeling of scraped knees. I remember the sound of the soccer ball that we would kick against the medieval church doors because there was nowhere to play soccer. And that starts with taste. Tasting that food, those extremely mundane turkey, peas and penne, it just sets that off in your body. Right? You remember what it feels like to have the energy of a kid somehow. I think that for a lot of us, we'll do just about anything to remember what that felt like.
That was Samuel Ashworth, the author of The Death and Life of August Sweeney. Thank you for listening to American Voices here on my YouTube channel. For more interviews celebrating the goodness and creativity of the American people, click the subscribe button below.